Oh, I think we're on. I forgot about Instagram. Hold on.
Okay.
I forgot to go live there. Uh, all righty. We are live. Good morning, everyone. It's not morning. It's morning where I am. Well, it's still morning technically, but not where some people are. So, hello, everyone. We
Hi.
are super excited. Hold on. Let me get my stuff together here. We are super excited to be with you. I'm Dr. Isela, and
I'm Nina Vasquez.
we are here as a part two. A part two. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about our purpose. And I was thinking about our session yesterday, and sometimes I start my story and then I don't like end my stories. And I told a story about going to Starbucks and going to Starbucks on the East Coast, and I'm from the West Coast, sort of the West Coast, and how different, culturally different people engaged with one another are. And it really was the beginning of me uh, beginning to understand how deeply influenced we are by not only our family, like I got that, like our families deeply influence us, but just societal expectations, cultural norms in terms of even where we live, how deeply influenced we are by that. There was a second part of this story that I want to share before we get into some of the homework that I gave, and I kind of made it a little bit prettier.
Mhm.
Um, the second one was that I had shared that I had trained nationally. So I'm a national trainer in the area of early childhood education, specifically around trauma and the long term implications of trauma for young children. That's why I know so much about what happened to us and why we are doing what we do as grown-ups. And I remember going to the Midwest. I spent a lot of time in the Midwest. And I used to take fidgets, and I don't have one. I actually still, this is a fidget that I use every single day. I also have my crochet next to me that I do. And then I have little Play-Doh containers that I must have put away, but
Mm.
I would put them like in the center of the table whenever I was training groups of people. And the reason is because some of us who are neurodivergent need something in our hands to fidget with in order to pay attention. Some of us doodle, some of us, I mean, there are things that we do to try to stay focused. And I will tell you that I would have a room of like 40 people because they were smaller, more intimate. So they were chunks of, groups of four, groups of eight at tables. And consistently, the people from the Midwest would take my basket, my container, and they would put it under the table at the onset of the session. And I was like, I don't know, like I brought them for you to use them. So like the second day I said, why are you like, help me understand why you're putting the things that I brought for you to use during the training. And I will never forget this. There, a man, he was a principal of a school. He said, we are not here to play. We're here to learn.
Oh.
And you have to remember we work with kids. So it's like the fact that we have taken playfulness out of learning was such an aha moment, not just because of that experience, but I think it applies to so much of our beliefs around purpose,
Mhm.
that there's no playfulness in that experience. And that's why, and I believe that playfulness, and the joy that exudes within us when we are playing or being playful is part of our innate being. That's who we truly are, is happiness, which is joy, right?
Mhm.
Happiness and joy kind of go together, and peace and love. But we have this perception that it's serious work,
Uh-huh.
serious work. And I will tell you that in all the groups that I have worked with, you know how you go back and you look at the people in your lives at different chapters in your life. One thing that stayed very consistent for me, which was not how I grew up. I did not grow up in a playful home. I did not grow up in a home that there was laughter and happy engagements. I live in a chronic state of fear. But as an adult, part of the magic, the groups that we created, the communities we created, was this sense of joy,
Joy. Oh.
just being able to laugh.
Mhm. Mhm.
and be able to just have these joyful experiences collectively. And I think that's part of our alignment to truth,
Mhm.
is to really allow ourselves to feel joy and happy and laugh, like belly laugh.
Yeah. When's the last time you belly laughed, Isela?
Oh my God, like yesterday. I
Yesterday.
went to my kid is funny and she doesn't know that she's funny.
Oh.
And we went to Barnes and Noble because it's like one of her favorite places in the world to go. And she was showing me a book and she was telling me about this book. It was written in Asia, and I forget what country in Asia, but she was like, it's a historical fiction. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me about this historical fiction. So she starts to talk to me about it. I'm like, I'm thinking historical fiction, like 1400s, the dynasty, China, like that kind of thing. She's
Yes.
like, no, it's 1980s.
What?
That is not a historical fiction. She's like, oh, it was in the 1900s.
Oh my gosh. We are historical. Dude.
Funny. And so I think it's such a critical part of finding purpose. Now, is the plumber who is probably like that's his purpose or her purpose is to plumb toilets. And I'm not saying that, but like I I can have another story about this because
Okay.
this is so important. I can't even tell you how important it is to just find the joy in where your purpose lies. I was at Jack in the Box. There was I don't know, a lot of places don't have Jack in the Box. It's like a fast food place.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And they have good tea. So
Hmm.
and there was one right next to where my kid used to go to her early childhood program. And so I would work there sometimes before it was time to pick her up. And I spent a lot of time at this Jack in the Box. And there was a man who was a manager there. And they sometimes will do open interviews. And so people would come in and they would sit around and wait for their interview, to be called up. And this young man came in. He was probably 18, 19 years old, maybe. And he was dressed in a button up shirt. He was a bit disheveled. He had a hat on, but it was turned backwards. And he just looked like he rolled out of bed to get there, even though he was like dressed up, right? And the manager came up to him, took his information, took his application. And then he said, look, man, he goes, let's clean you up a bit. Okay. He's like, tuck your shirt in. He goes, let's roll up your sleeves a little bit and he just talked him through how to present himself. Mind you, he was meeting with him.
Oh, okay.
And he was showing him what to do.
Oh.
And he said, now show me your handshake. Like it was, and I don't know why I get even emotional about that right now, because this kid, I don't know his experience of life, but he took the moment to see him.
Yeah.
And he took the moment, he's like, show me your handshake. Like, this is the way you shake a hand. And that experience for him could have been like, oh my God, like nobody took the time to show me this.
Yeah.
Nobody told me how to like show up for an interview. And he says, I'm going to say these questions to you, and then you're going to say this back to me. He goes, and you want to say it you want to be assured, have assurance when you say it. You want to be assertive when you say it. And I sat there watching this man, and I watched him that day, and day after day I was at this Jack in the Box, and he greeted people. Where this program was a very transient area of Phoenix. A lot of people experiencing houselessness, a lot of people who down and out in life. And I will tell you, they would come in, and the people who, in suits come in from the businesses around, and he didn't treat any person differently at all.
Beautiful
So
humans.
when I talk about purpose, I'm not talking about, oh my God, you're going to go out and you can go out and change the world, right? You're single-handedly going to create this huge ripple. What I'm saying is, whatever you do, what is the purpose in what you do? And for him, watching him connect with people and see them, that was his purpose. And it was clear. And he was a Jack in the Box manager.
Yeah. Probably that young man had never been really seen in that way.
And I don't know his story, right? I didn't, but maybe he didn't have somebody to show him how to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was really one of those moments for me where it's like the humanity of it, right? Like the connecting to each other. And I think that's such a critical part, at least for me anyway. That's my purpose. And I'm very introverted, believe it or not, but my purpose is to connect to people and to align at the level of who we are. And that's what he was doing as a manager at Jack in the Box.
So beautiful.
It was a beautiful experience. Okay, so did you do this, Nina, at all?
I did. I did.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to
Okay.
kind of be with us. So if you weren't with us yesterday, you have to watch yesterday's. But what I've talked about is this linear experience of life. Now, in truth, we do not live a linear experience of life. In form, we live linearly. And the reason is because we got to show up at some places that,
Yeah.
like at 9 o'clock. And, we age over time. It's like these ideas that we have about linear time. Okay. And so I identified these chunks of time that are pretty influential in our life. So we have birth, our early years, our elementary school, middle school, high school, and young adult. And I did it by our schooling, even though I could probably break down by ages if some of you need that. But before we begin identifying what you love to do during these periods of time in your life, what brought you joy, what brought you excitement, what brought you all those things, I want to say something about what influences us. I talked a little bit about how society, and now I think social media plays a huge influence on what we believe, who we believe we should be, right?
Yeah.
But from the moment we're born, we are literally learning. From the moment we are born, we are literally learning how to love and be loved by our family. We are learning from the moment we're born, who to be in order to be seen and heard and connected with in our families. That shapes us.
Yes.
It shapes the brain and our brains and bodies. Now we come in as a soul and a spirit. We come in as that. And we have wisdom beyond our awareness. But when we sign up to come into form once again, we forget all of that. Now we do see kids nowadays coming in with some of that not being forgotten. So they're bringing and accessing information very, very quickly. But our generation, your generation, many of us have just forgotten everything, and for good reason, right? We came for the journey. That's why we came, was for the journey.
Yeah.
But we're learning, in my family, given who my caregivers are, what do I need to do or say or be in order to be seen and heard and cared for? What do I need to do and say and be? And so is it that I need to scream really loud? Is it that I just need to smile? And all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, look at this beautiful baby. Like, what do I need to do? And we create ourselves based on what feedback we get, consistent feedback we get from our caregivers. So for those of us who received love and nurturing and support and a feeling of safety, oftentimes the babies just know that they consistently, they just need to utter a little sound, to cry a little. And all of a sudden there's somebody there to care for them.
Yeah.
And then some of us are born into homes that our parents don't have the capacity because of their own emotional state and their own belief systems around how you care for babies. That those little utterances and cries aren't going to consistently get a response. And so we don't do this consciously. It's an unconscious way that we respond to this. We either scream louder and figure out ways to get our needs met, or we give up. And we give up. Okay. And so this plays a really important part and this is where healing comes into play. This is where our healing comes into play, because here it's what do we need to do to get our needs met? And really our goal is to love and be loved. And Nina, you have shared, so I don't think it's a big deal that I'm sharing this because you've shared it across social media. For you, fawning was kind of the way that you received love. Can you share a little bit about that?
So if I became a good girl, I could receive love if I was just smiling, a good girl, and fawning, which was like people pleasing at the deepest level, right? Whatever I needed to do to stay safe was like, I just needed to appease even abusers.
Right.
And then I would get love, attention, affection, safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that with every person and being in my life, all the way up until last year.
Yeah, because you believe,
Mhm.
given your experiences, is this is how you do it.
Yeah, this is how I survive in the world.
This is how you do it. This is how what love looks like,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And so in order for me to receive love, whether it be from family members, friends, partners, potential partners, I need to make them happy or appease them in a way that pleases them so
Yes.
that I can be excited. I can feel safe, I can feel
Mhm.
connected, all of the things that inherently come in with needing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to remember that that is not just on the subconscious mind level, it's in the subconscious nervous system level.
Right.
So you can intellectually know I need to stop self-abandoning myself. You learn about people pleasing and you learn about funning and you're like, I need to stop this. But it's wired in, especially if it started really early, which most of the time these patterns do. It's wired in. And
Right.
that is where the healing comes in, what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's important for us to know this part about you. So if you're watching us, it's important
Yeah.
for you to know
Mhm.
what are the ways that I learned, what are the messages, the behaviors, and the beliefs that I learned about being loved and loving others.
Mhm.
Like you have to capture this first. And here's the reason why. So let's say appeasing, which is really just kind of doing what people expect of you or want of you. Sometimes, not sometimes, but most of the time, it goes against what you need, or you ignore your own needs.
You
Like
don't even know.
that's not even on your radar.
Yeah.
And so then when I ask Nina, what is it that you want or need? It's kind of like I don't know.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so disconnected from my own needs because I'm so accustomed to being in tune to what other people need.
Mhm.
Right
Mhm.
now, why this is important. So I'm going to put appease, okay, here. And the reason why I'm putting this here is I'm going to put doing for others. Okay. And this is doing for others, and it doesn't align with what you need. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
Well, sometimes what happens when we live a life like this, doing for others, putting other people's needs first, we think that's part of our core essence. That's part
Yeah.
of who we truly are.
Uh-huh.
And so we believe that's our purpose, is to do for others, when in fact it was just a message that you received. And now you have gained this belief system and wrapped your arms around this belief system that it's part of why you're here, is to do for others.
Mhm.
And that's how people identify themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to see what your pattern is, because it may not be that that's your purpose. Your purpose may not be to do for others in this way. It might, but it
Mhm.
might not.
Mhm.
And so you have to be able to see it.
Okay.
For me, the way I received love was by achieving,
Ah.
achieving,
Say it
by
again for the ones in the back.
by doing all the things that I set out to do. Oh my God, you are so good. Oh my God, and not like giving myself up time to rest, because I'm so passionate about what I love to do. And I would work and work and work and work. And I was like just this workhorse. And I got so many accolades for what I could produce, how quickly I could produce, the awards that I had won, that like that's where I got attention and affection and all of the things that filled me up. And so I had to get to an understanding of this is how I was receiving love.
Mhm.
Is it truly who I am? That's the
Right.
question.
Yeah.
Or did I simply learn a pattern of behavior to get my needs met?
Mhm.
And this is huge.
It is huge. And notice they're both, we formed a pattern of behavior, both of us, and they're
Yep.
different, right? But even, in my own family, there's two different patterns of behavior to get their needs met.
Yeah.
And so think about this as you're listening to Isela teach about purpose today. Think about who did you have to become? How did you get your needs met growing up? That's going to really tell you a lot, especially it will reveal to you if you're still doing it today.
Yeah.
Right. And that means if you're still doing it today, you haven't healed that part of you that became that to get your needs met.
Yeah. I will tell you one of the pitfalls. See, I loved what I did for work. I still do. I still love that work. Like I still love it. And threw myself in like 1000% if there was such a thing. And a lot of praise for how good I was at it. And I was really good as a teacher. I was good as an administrator. I was good as a trainer, as a consultant, good at that work. But I had become so dependent on that feedback of being so good that when you become dependent externally, you consistently seek that. It's almost like a drug.
Yeah.
You continually seek the validation. And I think it's true for someone like you too, Nina, who appease, right? And the way that you seek it is, are we okay? Do you love me? Do you love me? And that's where anxious attachment comes into play.
Yes. Right? Yeah. Yeah. And I want people to know you can have more than one.
Yes.
Pattern,
absolutely.
Right. You can have both of what me and Isela had, although she didn't have the peace part, but you can have both or many. I had many. Right.
Man, I think about appeasing. I was I think I still am kind of a fuck you kind of personality. So I'm like, the moment somebody expected something of me to kind of like make me happy, I'm like, fuck you, you're on your own.
Yeah. You're like a rebel energy.
You figure that out. So I had to work really hard at like connecting at that level because I knew what they were needing and wanting. And without me wanting to withhold love, because withholding love was something that I grew up with. You pissed me off and I'm going to withhold love to try to make you feel bad. And so a lot of us grew up with that. Why is this important when I'm talking about purpose? Because we have to dissect out what is just simply part of the experience of life that we've had, and the impact of how we perceive ourselves and how we show up in the world.
Yes.
Because it may not be part of your purpose. Right? These ideas about ourselves may not be part of our purpose. All right. So now let's go into some of the things you liked to do as a child. Now I'm going to reiterate. There are a lot of people, and I know a lot of people personally who say to me, I don't remember my childhood.
Yeah.
I don't remember my childhood. My husband says that too. He remembers, bits and pieces of his childhood. But we've had this conversation before, and he does remember, my husband's an athlete. And so he remembers like riding his bike and just going out and, playing basketball and going to the park and like just spending time outdoors and the joy that he got from that. And so let's kind of explore a little bit, and you're going to do this at home. Okay. So you're going to kind of think about different periods of time in your life, and you're going to go, okay, what were the things that I just liked to do? Okay. So what did you like to do, Nina?
I love to play outside.
Okay.
Me and my sister used to go, we're a year apart. We used to go up like in the trees and sit on the trees, and we would like have eating contests. It's wild. We were raised in California, so we had like fruit. So we would like try to eat a whole lemon at once and things like that. So I like to do that. I love to write. The writing started in like elementary school, maybe middle school actually. And then
what did you like to write? Like, what was that about?
Stories.
Stories.
Like just, I remember just pencil and paper and writing, like, how you had to do 3 paragraphs. That's how we did it growing up. So I like to do that. And then I liked to play sports and like be around my girlfriends. That was a big deal. And then I really like to be funny and joke. I remember Isela's really good at storytelling, but I had this friend, her name's Amanda. Maybe she'll see this. I don't know. But from school, we went to church camp because I was like going to like, whatever church camp my friends would go, like I would go. We went to church camp and we were eating and we were talking and we were eating. I remember it was Cocoa Puffs. I was eating Cocoa Puffs and we were just eating and I was laughing a lot. And I don't know if she was telling jokes, but I used to laugh a lot growing up when I was young. Like this is probably prior to middle school, maybe right at elementary, middle school.
Okay.
And on the way out of this cafeteria, I was at a college cafeteria. On the way out, I had laughed so much that I made myself vomit all the Cocoa Puffs like, behind a shrub. You know, I had made myself sick from laughing so much. But I do remember laughing when I was little too, because it was a thing. Laughing was the thing that I would do right before bed to get myself like to try not to go to sleep. You know, like, and I remember my grandmother didn't like that much, but yeah, so those are all the things on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like to play outside, you'd like to write stories, you like sports, you like being with your friends, and you like to joke and have fun and laugh.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and if you don't know Nina's background, I mean, both of our backgrounds, we do come from generational trauma. Like we grew up in homes that were scary and our needs weren't met and that sort of thing. Yeah. And so that is part of our lens of experience. Okay. Yeah. And so the reason why I bring that up is because, you know, we live difficult lives, but we do laugh.
We do laugh. I laughed more then, probably.
Yeah, right? All right. So this is what we like to do. So this is the what. Okay. This is the what. I'm going to put this right here.
Okay.
Now, the next thing is, how did you feel? Okay. So when you did these things, so we've got play outside. How did you feel when you played outside? Do you remember how you felt?
I think it was free.
Okay.
A little free.
Free.
If I even knew what that meant, but it was just like joyous and free. Like, yeah. Writing stories, I think it was creative.
Okay.
I felt creative. I know that's not an emotion, but we'll go with it.
Yeah. Works.
Sports. Many emotions. Confident, competitive. I also felt like belonging.
Yeah, that's big in sports.
Yeah. Felt like I belonged somewhere. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I played basketball, same thing. Like I've had that sense of belonging, you know, being that part of a team.
Yeah.
Those were
morale.
Like mm-hmm. Okay. And when you were with friends, how did you feel?
It's hard because there's some trauma responses in there with friends too, right? I think I often felt less than, not enough.
So why did you want to be with them? Do you think? What were you seeking?
I think this is an emotional activating exercise. I think that let me regulate. I think that I felt, I didn't have a mother during that time that I'm thinking about. This is like adolescence, like 12 in high school. I think it was feeling a void that I didn't have. And so there was like some acceptance and belonging and love, also connection, things like that I didn't have probably.
Okay. Yeah. So you were seeking this stuff, how to love and be loved.
Yes. And also I could gain praise as well, because I was like the little, Hispanic girl that was so good at cleaning up dishes after herself and like responsible and respectable and, all those things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very common when we get into, so the early years of life are our foundational experiences of life, and all the things that we experience become the lens by which we see the world through. Yeah. And so then from here, from our early years, about 8 and 9, we start to shift all from looking at our caregivers, we shift and we look out into the world. And so the way we see it is based on those early experiences of life.
Mhm.
And so for you, this feeling of not feeling seen and heard and consistently loved and safe, we do naturally seek those things with our friends, with
Yeah.
uh, kids our own age, because
Mhm.
that's just simply a natural progression of life. We go from looking at our caregivers for guidance, support, and love, and then we start to take that skill set and move it into our next progression of life, which is usually elementary school and middle school, definitely by middle school. And it's really in preparation into adulthood, right? That's
Mhm.
what's happening. And so this is, I'm going to go off on a tangent, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not going
Right.
too. This is why so much of what we do from birth to 7 is so critically important with children, and what was done to us, because we will seek those same experiences in our friend groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as adults with friends.
Right. So like if I wasn't quote, let me tell you, like maybe this will land. Tell me if this is I'm on track with what you're saying. If I wasn't quote unquote enough for my mom to get clean, come around, stay around me, protect me, right? Then I'll seek and attract relationships where I'm not enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You
Yeah.
just keep replaying the same cycle over and over. And, it's painful and it's devastating when we're in it.
Sure.
But when you can lift out and understand it,
Mhm.
and you can at the time because you're a kid, right?
No
But
way.
there are patterns even that go into your adulthood that look very similar to that, because
Mhm.
it's simply a pattern, and not only a pattern, but it's also what you attract.
Yes.
And from a spiritual place, it's really a lesson still to be learned.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
a lesson still to be learned. So, you get rid of Johnny, and then Mark comes up, Mark. Sorry, Mark. And then Mark comes up, and it's like, it's the same bullshit. Well, that's because energetically you're still attracting that.
Yeah. I also dated somebody named Johnny that was like this, the story would go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wild. Her intuitive nature is coming in. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. It's
Yeah.
weird, right? Okay, so joke and being funny. So when you had the opportunity to just laugh and be like, what does that feel like in your body? Just take yourself there for a moment and just, what does that feel like?
I literally just had a big laugh. We played games on New Year's Day with my niece and nephew, with my niece and my brother and sister-in-law, and it was like I can't explain the feeling. It's like joy, overwhelming joy.
Like euphoric? Would that be a good
Euphoric,
word?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, "We have to do this again." I mean, these were kid games,
Uh-huh.
right? But, like, "We have to do this again. We're gonna plan it. We're gonna do it again," It was so fun. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's part of our natural state, is to be in community, and part of that is, to hold space for each other and all of the things that are important for us in our
Mhm.
healing journey, but it's also to just have fun.
Yeah.
Just have fun. And we forget about that.
Mhm.
All right. So this is the what. So we talked about the what did I like to do? How do we feel? Okay. And this part here, I love to feel free and joy. There was a creativity aspect of me
Mhm.
writing. I felt there was this confidence that I had in, and competition even, but there was also a sense of belonging where I felt like I had
Mhm.
my group there with me and felt connected. There was some struggle, and I think there's always struggle when we are with others, right? Because
Sure.
that being with other personalities, perspectives, and ideas
Mhm.
gives us the opportunity to be able to be open to those ideas different than our own, but also to be able to work through articulating our beliefs and solving problems and resolving things together. And then finally, being euphoric. So when we look at these things, we're looking at, okay, how do we, in terms of our sense of purpose, because joy, creativity, feeling confident, sense of belonging, and getting that sense of euphoria at moments is a critical part of our alignment, of your
Mm.
alignment.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So
Mhm.
then we go, okay, what then can I do? What do I already do? What did I envision doing that can bring these experiences into my life? Okay.
Yeah.
And so what is it? And when you think about playing outside, the way that I see it is about developing skill set. And I don't mean that you go out, you could be going out and developing skill sets, but you're going, okay, let's take a look at these, like playing outside. Okay. To me, when I think of playing outside from the adult lens of purpose, this is about nature.
Yeah.
This is about connecting to nature, to your surroundings, right? Would that be a fair
Yeah.
guess?
Fair.
Is
And
nature
are you
something that
able,
do you connect to nature? Is that something that's important to you?
yeah, are you able to move that over just a little bit to your left? Yep, there you go. Yep. Yes, I do actually. And I love that's like if I had the choice to walk inside or outside, I would be outside. And I like to go to like a trail that has trees and, nature where I can
Okay.
see. Yeah.
So we already know from jump that part of you living your best life, your purpose, is to make time for this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have time for this, my guess is energetically you get zapped.
Yeah, you're right. I don't feel, it feels like, yeah, I'm drained. That was zapped is a good word for it. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so this is part of the way that you get filled back up is to
Mhm.
get grounded in nature. Okay.
Yes.
So when we're talking about purpose, what is it that I need to do to live my best life? Right.
Mm.
So writing stories had a creative aspect within your life. What opportunities for creativity do you put into your life or in the work that you do? Because it's both things. It's the work and my life, and sometimes those things can come together. How are you creative?
This is an area of growth for me. um, I have been writing more, in via emails, right? I send emails to people. Um, I started coloring this year.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's a growth area. It's
All
an
right. So let's back out of that.
underdeveloped area.
Let's back out. Okay.
Okay.
So creativity is something that you know that you have not done in your life, or at
Mhm.
least in the last recent part of your life.
At least the last decade. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
last decade, so 10 years. Okay, so why? So let's kind of explore this for a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
if where is the whether, and I don't know that it's a fear, it might be a discomfort or maybe an uncertainty, or maybe I'm not sure how, or maybe a vulnerability. Like, think about what might be coming up for you when you think about the idea of being creative.
So I will tell you, a couple of years ago, right before we first met, I realized, and I don't know if you helped me figure this out or not, but I realized that so journaling was a big thing that I was kept trying to do, right? It's like
Mhm.
kept trying to journal. But I couldn't be, this is the way I say it. I think you'll understand it in a different way, but I couldn't be in the present moment enough to like even understand what I was writing. Like my writing was so messy and I would like skip a letter or something, go toward the future. It was very challenging. So I think that was the block. I also uncovered a belief system that from early childhood that I was stupid.
Mhm, mhm.
Somebody said that to me and I believed them. Somebody like really close. And so, like, I used to believe I wasn't a good reader. I was, too stupid to read. My comprehension sucked. Like, I had a lot of like negative um, um, beliefs about myself in that area. And I know that's not specific to creativity, but I think it played a part somehow.
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so I just never really, it took me forever just to write a little bit in the past. And I would just like give up on journaling. And I tried and tried and tried. And over the past 2 years, I've gotten a whole lot better. I can write a whole like page and no problem. And I can read it and all those things. I think that was in the way of me being creative. And I know also that the unhealed trauma was blocking my creativity as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So creativity, true creativity, comes from spirit.
Hmm.
True creativity does not come from your ego system. Okay.
Okay.
So true creativity, and the way that I always think about this, we just went to go see Bob Dylan. I know you don't know who Bob Dylan is, but Bob Dylan is a folk singer from
Okay.
the 60s. And I was introduced to him by a college friend of mine because I didn't grow up with that genre of music. And we just went to go see that movie. And his music, when you do know about folk music, it's kind of like the Beatles and
Okay.
Michael Jackson, and like people who brought in music that really, I think, has stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are people aligning with spirit, bringing in um, via creativity, bringing in messages for the collective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And true creativity, when you allow yourself to be in the, and you have to be in the present space in order to be creative. Like you have to be in the present space. And if you've experienced a significant amount of trauma, like as you mentioned, you couldn't get present enough to capture your own experiences.
Yeah.
You couldn't. You didn't have
I
the
can be present.
capacity to do that. And this is where a lot of people might struggle with allowing themselves to just be present and be creative.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, you know, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
There's so many there. Vulnerability is a large part of this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That is a really big part too, because I remember this might resonate with people too. I remember when I first met Isela, she was really big on like creativity for me. That kept, it wasn't Isela, it was spirit talking through her, telling her like, you know, you would pull creative cards every time. It was like a thing, right? And I was like, okay, I'll try to do something. And I remember trying to watercolor, and then I remember just trying to draw. And every time I would draw, what I would draw, which was really funny looking back on it, was I would draw a house, a tree, a house and a tree. Like I was like 4 or 5, you know, that's what you might draw when you're little. And so like I've started to get a little bit more creative since then, but that's what I would draw. House and a tree.
I think what happens is we get stuck in we have to draw a thing
Uh-huh. Yeah.
instead of just doodle and let
Yeah.
yourself just kind of,
Mhm.
and I will tell you that's one of the best practices to align with spirit is just allowing yourself a marker, a pen, whatever medium you're using, and just music, play some binaural beats or play some hertz music, some things you can just Spotify, like look on Spotify for chakra music, and just allow that to move through your body and just move your hand.
Ah,
um, that creativity piece is, and this is true for all human beings. We have an innate need to be creative, and when we are not creative, it can manifest into things like depression, anxiety, which is actually, there's research to support it. Dr. Brene Brown did a ton of research around our need to be creative. She even did a workshop that was all about allowing yourself to be creative,
mhm,
that
mhm.
was available several years ago. And so creativity is a significant part of living your best life.
Yes. I love that.
Have to do this. So confident, sense of belonging, a little bit of competition. And the thing about competition, some people go, oh, competition is bad or competition is everything. There's two extremes to that. But competition, looking at it as like being better than better than yourself,
Yeah.
your previous versions of yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sense of like, and for me, I used to say to my staff when I was an administrator, we better not be in the same time from now.
Can you say that
And when
again?
better not be in the same place 1 year from now.
Oh, yes, yes. I feel that him that like landed in my body. Yeah.
Like as a collective group, the work that we were doing, because we worked with families who are in severe crisis situations. And I'm
Mhm.
like, as a collective group who provides a service to families and children, we are dedicated to growing, to knowing, to understanding ourselves in order to be able to show up for others.
Yeah.
And we better not be in the same place 1 year from now. And that was a commitment that like I had every single year. And I still do that with myself. I think about, okay, I am committed to working in alignment with spirit and allowing spirit to come through me to show up in a way that I can continue to do this work.
Yeah, it's powerful. I think, as someone who lived, if you guys don't know, Isela started her healing journey quite early in life, like, 18-ish. And she had a journey. And I started kind of late, later, not late, but later in life. And, for those 2 decades of not healing, I was often in the same place emotionally and mentally, year after year after year, year after year after year, right? So yeah, that just really lands with me. I will not be the same person of me next year.
Nina, I'm the weirdo. Like you starting out when you started out, I think is more common than not.
Yeah.
I think that's what the norm is. Even when I watch like creators on TikTok and they're like, I've been on this spiritual journey for like 4 years and they're like in their 40s, right? I think that's more common than someone who's like at 18 and is like, I need therapy and I want to like, find out who I truly am. I don't think that happens often.
Maybe nowadays, you never know.
I'm a weirdo. All right. So you need, in order to live your best life, you need to connect with nature and you need opportunities for creativity. Okay. The next, and we were talking about confident and being confident, competition, and a sense of belonging. So what that says to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But in your work, you need to feel a sense of belonging, to be seen, and to feel a part of community.
Yes.
So belonging.
I'm not sure I actually knew that until you're just saying that now. This is really cool. Yeah.
And community, right? Because in community, and I'm going to say this again, I'm an introvert and I can sit in my office and just do all the work by myself and I'll be like content to a certain degree. There's a part of me that feels like there's a need to be connected and in community because there's an energy that happens when we are in community with one another. And I don't know if anyone's ever been like in a group meditation or in a group yoga or in a group where you're just together. You don't even know each other.
Right.
You're just together and you can feel the energy in the space of just being together.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for group things like you just mentioned, group events, group meditation, all of it. It's a total different experience than laying down on the floor, meditating by yourself or doing breath work by yourself. Yeah.
It is a different experience. It's just you feel the magic, you feel the power, you feel it when you're a room of like 200 people, like because I've done group meditations that large, and if you, especially if you're an empath, and most of us who come from trauma are empathic to some degree, you feel it, and every cell of your body gets activated. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
So is an integral part of your experience. And then, so that goes into friends. And then the euphoric piece, something that brings you joy. Someone that brings you joy, right?
Yeah.
This is where your fulfillment comes from. Okay. So when we look at this list, and this is where people get hung up, we get hung up on the what am I supposed to do? The what am I supposed to do? And we want to determine our what with our brain. And we go, these are the roles and responsibilities that I can play in my life, right? What I say to people, instead of trying to make a decision with your brain when you're trying to find your purpose in life, you're going to look at this list. I need to be connected to nature. I need to be creative. I need a sense of belonging and community. And I need to have opportunities for playful experience, to experience joy. Okay. Where in my life and in what ways can I live and be true to this? What can I do to be true to this? One of the things that, because Nina, you've kind of gone like, I'm going to do this kind of coaching and this kind of coaching.
All over the place.
Right? Like what? And I think one of the things that I had asked you at some point recently, where do you feel the most sense of, I don't know how to describe this outside of saying alignment, but what I mean by that, because I'm going to try to articulate this a little bit better, is where in your life do you feel that you are most excited, most inspired, where you feel that there's a reciprocity in the relationship. And what I mean by that is, as much as you're giving, you're receiving.
Mm-hmm.
That's the magic point, is where I'm giving and I'm receiving. And it may be another side story. A woman at Walgreens, Christmas Day, my mother-in-law went to Walgreens together to buy some last minute gifts because they're open 24 hours, even on Christmas. And there was somebody who said, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry you had to work on Christmas." She goes, "No, I love it." She
Yeah.
said, "I love it." She said, "I don't have any kids. I don't have family who live here. I get to come here and people and talk to people and just, experience you all as I'm
Mm-hmm.
here." And that, for her, it was a magical experience. And it was great for us to have this connection with her. There was a reciprocity in that exchange.
Yeah.
Find those moments where there's a reciprocity, that what you feel that you are given, you are receiving back. There's this fluidity in this movement. And I think for you, you're kind of have landed with where it feels good to provide that
Yeah.
support to others, right?
Yes, I've landed. I've landed. And what came to me was Christmas Eve. I had a private client on, nope, New Year's Eve, New Year's Eve. And Christmas Eve, both days. And I really got this amazing opportunity to, we just spent the whole session with her celebrating her transformation, the moments of transformation throughout the year. And a lot of it was internal, healing. And I left that session feeling so filled up, just listening and reminding her of the things too, right? Because we forget, and it was just, I felt full. And so, yeah, that's a really good way. I've had people thank me for seeing them on Christmas Eve or whatever, and I don't feel like I'm working,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it feels joyful,
Yeah.
and it feels not in a I'm doing for others appeasing way, but in a I can't explain it. I think I have no words for it. Actually, it's unexplainable. It's just a knowing. There's a knowing that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to just reiterate, so we are in the business of helping others.
Mm-hmm.
Both you and I are in the business of helping others. But you
Mm-hmm.
could be in a corporate position. You could be in a corporate position and you could be doing work that you're brilliant at. And there could still be the experiences, because not all of these have to be about what you do at work.
Sure.
But how do you create experiences in your life where you are allowing yourself to align with the truth of who you are, the things that you need to live your best life, and to show up in a way that you are open and responsive to others,
Yeah.
and that you are, and it might be, in the team that you lead. It might be how you inspire people to be able to expand their awareness, their skill set, they're developing new ideas. Maybe you are taking a shift and things have to change. How are you being responsive to those changes and the fears around change? Like, there are lots of ways that we can identify purpose without this notion that it's like you have to go out there and make these huge waves. Because in my work, it's been the ripple. It's been
Yeah.
the small ripple. The one person who now is working with 5 other people.
Yeah.
The teachers that I have worked with over the course of my years, now so many of them are in, they have their doctorates, they're working as administrators, they're impacting others. That's the ripple. It could even be your own children. You
Yes.
work so closely with your own children to provide a loving, responsive, safe environment for them. And now look at what an amazing parent they have become.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get out of this notion that it's connected to our positions
job,
in our work that we do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think if you look at the list that you have for me, if I went back to a corporate role, those would still stay the same. The circumstance of my role would be different, right?
Yeah.
They would still stay the same. And so then I would be responsible for creating experiences in nature, experiences in creativity, experiences where I feel that joy and fulfillment and I feel belonging. And and there's reciprocity, right? So it would be like, I have, experiences outside of serving, right? Like even just the playing games with my family, right? I
Yeah.
got to feel that way. Yeah. So fun.
So I have another quick story before we end today.
Okay.
When I became one of the times I became an administrator of a crisis intervention program, I was making big changes and people did not like me. I was not, we like to do the things that we have done because we've always done it. That's where I'm safe. That's where I feel secure, and I was like, no, we are going to make lots of changes because we're doing more harm than good. One of the things that we did was start to meet regularly because folks they just weren't communicating with one another. It's one of the hardest things in any corporation, company, organization is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would have these monthly meetings, and I had a tray. It was a glass tray, and I had those little tea lights.
Mm-hmm.
And I would start every meeting by lighting. At first, it was me, and then I had one of the other people on my staff. They would light it. And then when people would walk in for the meeting, they would light their own tea light. And so they would all be lit with each person coming in, a tea light representing each person. And the way that I explained this was that together, look at the hue that we create, the light that we. And there will be times when a tea light, because they don't last very long, they'll burn down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the tea light will burn down, and we all feel burnout or overwhelmed at some point in our lives and in the work that we do. But we're here to continue to support each other when we do feel overwhelmed, when we are not feeling well, when things feel like it just, we're going down and up escalator. We are here to support and care for one another. And then you get a new tea light because then you're renewed and refreshed with the support that, we work to support you so that you can feel renewed and refreshed. And then there's a new tea light for you the next time you come in. And everyone rolled their eyes at me when I talked about this the very first few times.
Yeah.
They're like, oh God, this is so stupid. We're going to sit here and light these candles and this so represents blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm like, no, trust me. This represents us and our light. And they're like, oh, is she a little woo-woo? That was the other thing.
Bringing the woo to corporate.
Yeah, totally. And I will tell you, by the fourth meeting, I think it was about the fourth meeting, we met in different places, just depending on where there was space. And we couldn't find the tray. Like, where did we leave the tray of tea lights? And so they refused to start the meeting until they found the tray, because this became a ritual of connection and belonging. Mm. And we forget the significance of these rituals in our lives.
Yeah.
I think ritual has a lot to do with our truest connection to one another and the oneness that we are. And so if you're listening to this, if you're watching this on the replay, do this activity for yourself, because I believe we need to get out of this notion that role responsibility is purpose. Yes. Our purpose is to live our best experience, to work through the shit and the trauma.
Yes.
So we can align with the truth of who we are. And then when we actually live this, the things that we identify for each one of ourselves as significant in our lives, then you're going to find the love, the fulfillment, the peace, and the abundance that's naturally going to show up in your life because you're living in alignment.
Yeah. And Isela, you being willing to step into your purpose and go through the discomfort of them rolling their eyes at you, you'll never be able to see the full ripple effect of that. Mm-hmm. It's really powerful.
Yeah. Oh, so much discomfort.
Right?
So much discomfort. All right. Let's see. If my comments are covered here. Let me see anyone.
Isela
was here.
Oh, she was here. Yeah. And awesome. On my Instagram, one of my friends, Elisa, she says, I love that true creativity comes from spirit. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't actually create shit on our own. Stop thinking that you're creating things on your own.
Yeah. And she's super creative. Like she's like an artist. Yeah. So fun.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I create stuff, because I love to create too. And so every time I create something I'm really proud of, I just say, thank you, Spirit.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Nina?
Um, I don't think so. I think this is a really powerful exercise if you choose to do it. I have never seen purpose. I told you in the yesterday's, I was like, I've done all kind of purpose things, and I just have never seen it laid out like this. And I think it's a simple but effective tool. So if you're watching this on the replay, do this because this really did help me in this
Yeah.
moment. To
And
do.
I think this, like, can I find something in my work
Yeah.
that aligns with some of these things? Can I do
Mhm.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you ask Spirit for help, and guidance and putting the right people in your life, the more you trust in that, the more you'll see it happen for you.
Something just dropped in for me right now, and I'll share it before we end. I like how you said, can I find something in my work right now? Because there is something I'm doing right now I would believe is not fully in alignment.
Mm.
But the question, and those of you listening might be there too, right? You're not quite in alignment yet, but you're not ready to leave that yet. So, can I find something in my current work where I can create that? And the ones that popped out to me is like community and belonging.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it is our responsibility to create what we want in life.
Yep.
Right? It's not going to be created for us. I mean, sometimes it is, right? But if it's missing wherever you are in life, you get this opportunity to create it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, take your power back, because I think what you just said is really important, because we're waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
And you actually have to start the ball rolling, because what you're doing is you're getting in that alignment, and then you become to attract the very way that you show up.
Yes. Ah, that was good.
Yay! All right, everyone. Today is Friday. So we will not be on tomorrow or Sunday. I will be going live with my cousin for free readings tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time and 11 p.m. or a.m. Eastern time. So we'll be on my channel and then Embracing Souls channel. So if you would like a free reading, free mini reading, we don't do mediumship online typically. So free intuitive reading tomorrow. Join us on Monday. Mark and I will be recording our next episode, and we're going to be talking about spiritual overwhelm. And he has experienced where he like tried to take in everything, and again got burned out of trying to figure out what it all meant in his life. So we're going to talk about what happens to people sometimes when they get a lot of information and want information, but they don't give themselves time to process that information.
Oh, fun. I'm excited to hear that one.
Yeah. So that's what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday.
All right, everyone. Bye.